Hey ladies and gents, welcome to the Control of Interest Gamecast, episode 115, where we talk about video games and everything happening in the industry. As always, I'm joined by Dom.
Hello, Jerrad.
Hello, and Jordan.
These fucking wannabe Brits. But hey, Jerrad, it's great to have you on the show. I'm glad to see you back here on the Gamecast, so thanks.
Good to see you too. I actually had a pretty busy week in terms of what I've been playing. So I started Assassin's Creed Odyssey. That came out last Friday.
Assassin's Creed Odyssey!
I'm about 15 hours in.
So the tutorial's done?
Yeah. The whole thing's really funny. It's probably about 3 hours in until you see the title credits, but it doesn't mean like that 3 hours is wasted.
That's fucking
I actually like the way
Assassin's
this game
Creed
starts.
bro.
Yeah, you start in a small island, and then you kind of sail to the bigger parts of Greece, which is really cool.
They love doing that shit where it's like, get you into the game, and you're like, yeah, I'm playing Assassin's Creed, this is a fun game. And then it's like, oh, I forgot they hadn't done a title screen yet. And they're like, yeah, remember how this looks?
Gotcha.
With a subtitle.
Yeah.
They love, and they like pan over the sky. Like I remember Assassin's Creed 3 where you play as Haytham Kinway for like 2 or 3 hours, and then it's like Assassin's Creed 3.
That was a tutorial, man. I didn't even I finished that tutorial, and then it was just like, oh man, I just can't.
People say that's the best part of the game. People say like a lot of people say that's their favorite part of the game.
Anyways,
at least as far as like if you're gonna make me do a 2 hour long tutorial, sorry we're spending so long on this. The story of those 2 hours was interesting enough to pull me through because I thought Haytham was an interesting character and the way he's like a Templar, you know, and you're used to dealing with assassins at that point in the series.
So Odyssey actually the beginning of the game. You're thrust into like the world of 300. So you obviously control Spartans and stuff. I don't want to get too spoilery in case you guys are planning on playing it eventually with that. But yeah, the game's great. Cassandra is probably only 15 hours in. She's probably one of, if not my favorite female protagonist in a game ever. She's awesome. Nice. All the jokes about Wonder Woman are super fitting. No, I didn't play Syndicate. Syndicate and Unity are the only 2 Assassin's Creed games in the whole series I haven't played.
Jordan's got a point.
Evie. What was my point?
I can't remember her name, but the girl you play, at least for
yeah,
half the game,
Evie. I think I was trying to remember her name. I think it's Evie.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
And, she's great. And the chick in I'm just talking about female protagonists in the series. The chick from Liberation, the Vita game, is pretty cool too.
Yeah, well, I guess I didn't play that one either because I never owned a Vita.
I wouldn't expect you to. They've remastered it for PS3 and PS4 though, I think.
Okay.
Just FYI.
Yeah, so Cassandra, all the jokes about like Wonder Woman and stuff is spot on. Obviously, the apparel kind of matches it, but she's a very strong character. The romance options are an interesting addition to Assassin's Creed. I'm very conflicted on this game because, first and foremost, I'm loving this game. It's probably, when I'm all said and done, it's probably going to be a contender for me for my personal game of the year. Obviously, I haven't played God of War yet, so it's still up there, and then Spider-Man and Celeste and all those other games. But
yeah, this is up there with Spider-Man then, huh? Contending with Spidey?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's past it yet, but it's like it's there, right?
But it's in the ring, bro. It's got its fisticuffs going.
Yeah, but speaking of conflicted, so like as a game, it's great. All of the mechanics, the systems, they refined a lot of the stuff from Origins. The combat feels a lot better. A lot of it is really great. My problem and the reason I'm conflicted is because I'm playing through this game, and it's as great as it is. It's not an Assassin's Creed game to me. Like it's just a very, very, very good and well polished RPG that just happens to carry the name of Assassin's Creed. So it's weird to me, right? Because there's like a disconnect. Because I'm loving this game and it's so good.
Sorry, I was just going to be branching right off of what you just said. One of my things that I really didn't like about Origins that to me took away, like, why is this an Assassin's Creed game? When you're dropping down on people to do your hidden blade move and it doesn't fucking kill them. Like, you have to upgrade your hidden blade, I think, 4 or 5 times in Origins before it will kill somebody by stabbing them in the throat. Like, what in the fuck kind of game, Assassin's Creed game is it where I can't do a drop-down assassination on somebody with my hidden blade? So it's
consistent with Egyptian lore, man. Those folks had metal throats, right?
That's not.
I was gonna say, like, what Egyptian lore where they get indestructible throats? Like, Sorry,
Yeah, the problem there is based because they've added so many RPG systems into it. It's that you can't one-shot assassinate people who are like X amount of levels above you, but you can one-shot assassinate anybody who's your level or below.
Yeah, and you couldn't even do that in Origins, if I'm...
No, you could. That's what I'm saying. That's the system, is that you, in order to assassinate somebody and kill them, they had to be your level or lower. But if you were level 12 and there was a level 13 enemy, you would assassinate them, and like you said, you wouldn't kill them. You would only injure them, and then you'd have to fight them or whatever. What the upgrades did for the Hidden Blade, it was percentage-based. So it was like 20, 40, 60% of your weapon damage. So basically, if you were level 12 and you had one upgrade, you could kill level 14 people. If you had two upgrades and you were level 12 and you can kill level 16s. You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, that is not as big of an issue when you're at level 12, level 14, but when you're starting the game off and you're just a couple levels in, that's really annoying. And also, I just think that that's fucking ridiculous as a mechanic. Like, so if I went up to a dude who's like way fucking stronger than me and like way beefier and bigger, even though I'm already a big dude, like, if I stabbed him in the fucking throat, he's not gonna be like, well, your level's not high enough, I'm still alive. Like, that's so fucking dumb as a concept in a game that is based in relative realism and is about fucking assassinating people. It just doesn't make any sense.
It sounds like you're kind of reflecting what Jerrad's saying. Like, that's an RPG now, right? That's pretty typical for RPGs, right? Like,
no, because what other RPG are you using lethal weapons and stabbing people in the throat and not killing them? I don't think that's the RPGification of it. But I will say that, and I've mentioned this over the years on the show about Assassin's Creed in particular, but I just wish the RPGification of it is something I've been wanting more of for years. But I think they either need to fucking make an RPG or make an Assassin's Creed game that doesn't have RPG elements. You know, especially this gen, you know, Unity started this gen, it's like inching closer and closer with every iteration, but they're still like, they just won't. It's like that fucking game at the at Chuck E. Cheese or a fucking casino where it's like the coins are barely pushing each other. You drop a coin in and try to like push the pile off of the ledge. Yeah, it's like they keep dropping coins in. They're just not going to go off that fucking ledge over into RPGs. So
this is a Bethesda
Sorry, I'm
game.
hijacking this, Jerrad. I apologize. This is your playtime, but I mean, you mentioned Assassin's Creed. I'm obviously passionate about the series.
Yeah, I mean, with this, I think this is a fully fledged Odyssey is a fully fledged RPG. It's a Bethesda game. Like, it's in every way, form. Like, it's so much an RPG. And the thing is like I said, I'm conflicted because a lot of the reasons I love the Assassin's Creed franchise aren't in this game. It doesn't feel like an old school, you know, Ezio trilogy Assassin's Creed game. And honestly, I think that this is kind of intentional. And on the plus/negative side, this does open a door for Prince of Persia. Because we always talked about how are they going to release Prince of Persia at the same time they released Assassin's Creed? They're very similar in a lot of ways. But because Assassin's Creed is getting pulled so much in this RPG direction where it doesn't even feel like the Assassin's Creed games we remember, I really think that this does open up a window for Prince of Persia to come back and maybe dive into the actual stealth parts of it. The one thing I will say is the upgrade system is interesting because there's three. It's a little bit different than Origins. So there's Hunter, Warrior, and Assassin, and they're different tree branches for those specific things. And you have the abilities that you equip, and you can only equip four hunting ones, so bow-based ones, and 4 like just combat-based ones. So it actually tells you that throughout the game you can go back and reset your skills and add different skills to the thing and kind of mess around and see what abilities you find you like most when you're playing the game. So there's like the Spartan kick, there's the shield rip. One of my favorite...
The Spartan kick, that's great.
Yeah, the chest kick, oh, it's so good. One of my favorite abilities in the game is, I think it's called like Shadow Assassination or like it's not called Port Assassination. I'm just making that up because it's like teleporting. But essentially what it is like if you're a certain distance away, you use the ability and you warp to that person through an animation, right? It obviously like cuts and it shows you coming in from out of screen. You assassinate that person, and the more times you upgrade it, the more you can chain off of it. So like you do the animation, you do the ability, assassinate one guy, and then depending on how much it's upgraded, you can chain to this guy or this guy or this guy.
So just so I'm clear on the lore here, you're not actually teleporting. It's just
no.
Fading to black and then shows you once she's gotten to the guy physically.
It's like I think the ability is called like rapid assassination, or it's something like that. And basically, it's like if there's too much like in the way of you getting from this person from this point to that person, you can use this ability to kind of traverse that long area.
Like you don't want to have to kill the 8 guys in between you and him, so this will just get you to that guy.
Yeah, or if there's like a weird like area where you can't really scale it or come down to him in an effective way to assassinate him, it's kind of I'm in a distance where I can reasonably just like sneak up to him and assassinate him, but the way the game is designed, like the world and the buildings doesn't help that out. You know what I mean? It's very helpful. And
there's situations, you might not want everybody to see you or something like that.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
And these abilities can't be spammed. Like there's cooldowns on all of the abilities, which I appreciate because I was like thinking when I first looked at the abilities, I'm like, this is kind of going to take away from the combat and stuff. I could just spam this stuff, but there's good cooldown. And one thing I haven't figured out is I don't know if it's item based. So like when you go up to like the arrow stations and stuff in the Assassin's Creed games, and you like get all of the equipment, like you reload like your arrows and stuff like that. I don't know if it's. I don't know if it's attached to that or if it's attached to you killing people, but in combat there will come a point where you can't do your abilities anymore until you and I haven't really paid attention to it, so I don't know the exact answer, but it's either like
even after their regular cooldown time you still can't use them?
There will come a point in a battle where you can't, like you've used all of the energy for them. Ammo. Exactly. So I don't know how you refill that is what I'm saying. I haven't like paid attention to it too much. I don't know if it's based on you attacking people or if it's based on you re-equipping items. You know what I mean? Like getting more arrows or stuff like that. I haven't really paid attention to that. Some people are talking about the microtransactions and stuff, how those are an issue. Hasn't come up once. I didn't have that issue in Origins either, and people complained about it. Like you have to dig to get to the microtransactions. I never once felt like they were like in my face. At all.
Yeah, I think Assassin's Creed microtransactions have been there for fucking ever. When people get surprised by them, I'm like, this is the farthest series from me being surprised about microtransactions. And they're just like the time saver types. They're like, and obviously you're not even like going online and face off against people, but it's just time savers for upgrades or whatever.
Yeah, I don't want to go too much longer in Assassin's Creed Odyssey because I'm going to be playing it a lot more. Like I said, I'm only 12 to 15 hours in. It's a pretty long game. I just want to play it as much as I can before Red Dead comes out. But I am liking it.
So, real quick, I just wanted to ask, you liked, not loved Origins, correct? Liked a lot?
If I was rating it on 10 of my personal enjoyment of it, I would say it was a solid 8. I would say this is like...
Whereas Spider-Man PS4 is...
9.5.
9.5 versus an 8, and you would say this is probably what, like a 9 or so?
It's currently like at a 9.1, somewhere in there.
So for you, the changes are incremental.
Yeah, I mean the thing is the combat feels so much better.
Changes.
Yeah, especially for like all of us enjoy the Souls games. We bring them up all the damn time, and that was one of the things with Origins is they introduced some of those combat things, but they were very loosely. They weren't very good. Like, they were okay, right? They were passable.
Well, I think with Syndicate, it was way too fucking easy. Because it was like... Assassin's Creed was already a pretty easy combat system. And then they almost made it into a joke. And so I think they were trying to make it more Soulsy. Which I appreciate you saying that we all love Souls games.
Yeah, I know. I've left you out.
It's an inside joke there. Yeah. Bloodborne is a Souls game. But anyways... I think that... it seems like they're trying, at least they're trying different stuff. I hate the fact that you can't fucking assassinate somebody in one shot no matter whatever level they are. But at least they are trying new stuff and like, rejiggering the combat to try to make it work better. And it sounds like you think it's vastly improved, which it did need to be. It was like, it's another one of those game examples of like, people trying to do From Software combat that have no business fucking around with that type of combat and that type of like, you have to be very skilled developers to handle that type of combat in your game, and there's a lot of developers trying to emulate it that are just not anywhere close, and I think that's Origins was an example of that, so hopefully they got away from that.
And the thing they nailed in this game too is that one of my favorite things of the Souls games is when you use a different weapon, depending on like its length and if it's a ranged weapon or not, you feel that in the combat. And I think that's something they nailed in Odyssey is, you know, there's enemies I'll face with short swords and I'm just like, I just can't win this fight with short swords. Like I'm gonna die. So I scrolled through and I'm like, okay, I have a long spear and I just have to play the poking game, the prodding game, you know.
So even if you like dodge roll around them to the back of them and stuff,
you can, but for me,
it's just gonna be like tedious and annoying. Yeah,
because so there's a whole bounty system in this game where you know, you build up a bounty bar. Has nothing to do with the toilet paper or paper towels. You build up a bounty bar, and there's helmets, and it's kind of like the GTA star system, but different. You know what I mean? It's kind of the same concept.
Because I was thinking it sounded almost like Bloodborne's, what is it, reclaim system or whatever. Like if you get hit and then you jump back in and hit them within a certain amount of time, you get stamina. This
is based on like the world, not necessarily combat specifically. I should have prefaced that. So yeah, the more crimes, the more people you kill, you build up the bar, and the higher the bar fills up, the tougher the bounty hunters are that come after you. The higher level they are.
Kind of like Red Dead.
Yeah.
Kind of like Dark Souls.
Exactly. Yeah. So the last thing I want to touch on, because I've been going on for a while, and I have a couple of things I want to talk about, is that in this game I assumed because it's all, you know, Greece and there's a lot of Sparta imagery and the marketing and stuff like that, that, oh yeah, you're going to be on the side of the Spartans.
Go Greece lightning.
In this game, it's kind of like...
I'm sorry, we need to have a fucking rockabilly Assassin's Creed where they're fucking slicking their hair back into ducktails and they got their fucking jackets on. They got their fucking cigarettes rolled up in their sleeves. They're like, hey, Jack, what are we doing today? Who we assassinating today? You know what I'm saying?
John Travolta is Leonidas. So, God, I lost my train of thought. Oh, so yeah, in the open world map, there's Athenian outposts and soldiers and stuff, and there's also Spartan soldiers and outposts, and you can attack either of them. And throughout the game, like, you can choose what side you're on during like major battles and stuff, and you don't have to necessarily stick to a side because you're like just a mercenary. So you can like, oh, I'll help out the Spartans this time, but then later on it's like, oh man. Hello?
Oh man, things could happen and you might be facing off against the Spartans next time. So where are you from originally, your characters?
Dom, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, is Jordan frozen on your screen too?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
we'll
weird.
wait for him to get back. Let me make a note. Whoa. You just went, you fast forwarded like crazy. We just heard you at lightning speed. We didn't hear any of that, Jordan. So just whatever I said, the last thing, when you started to reply to me, just go through that again.
Yeah, I was trying to like make this a smooth fucking transition. I was trying to like pick up your slack or whatever. Not that you fucked up, but I was saying, so maybe you might be against Athens, maybe you might be against Sparta when you're facing off in these battles. Does it tell you like where you're from, the characters, where they grew up, or like where their loyalty was originally?
I don't want to spoil any of that. That's why I kind of stayed away from that. Cool. But yeah, you learn all of that. Cool. There's a reason why you would want to choose one side over the other, but there's also a reason why you would choose the other side over that side.
But it's not like your Bayek's sister from Egypt and you came up to fuck up Spartans and Athenians.
No.
Yeah, you have a personal tie.
The story is actually really interesting.
I've heard good things.
And if you buy it, so Cassandra is the
female protagonist?
The canon character too. So just keep that in mind as well.
What?
Yeah, Alexios isn't the canon character.
They made that a thing? They like came out and said that? That's weird.
Yeah. Alexios is on a lot of the marketing because like obviously dude bro stuff. There is advertising with Cassandra. I don't want to say like it's all they just.
I haven't seen the cover of this game. I need to see.
But yeah, it's she's the canon character and she's awesome. Anyways, I've been going for a long time and I want you guys to be able to talk to you about what you've been playing. So, real quick.
Well, that's partially my fault. I was stopping you every 2 seconds.
I also got into the Google Project xCloud beta to stream games through Google Chrome.
Dog.
It was
nice. Project Stream.
Yeah. I don't know. Project xCloud is the Microsoft one. Yeah, Project Stream. I got into that. I played around with it for like half an hour to an hour. I have pretty good internet. I shouldn't say decent. I have 180 download, 10 upload. So it's actually like pretty good.
It is good.
Yeah, the upload is always
great.
the hardest thing. It ran great for me. I didn't notice any latency. It played very well. There was very little texture.
Yeah, I would say you have
pop
great
in,
internet.
so
You're
that
not
was
gonna have
good.
to, like,
I was actually expecting a lot more than what there was. The only thing I can't give you a good review on is screen tearing, because obviously I know what screen tearing is. I'm just not very good at picking that up personally.
Yeah.
You know? So,
do you know what it is that you're looking for?
yeah, it's like when like the pixels necessarily don't match up on. It's like it's a tear in the like the graphics that are being projected.
Yeah,
to
it basically
they don't line
it
up.
basically looks like an invisible, like if there was an invisible line across your screen. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. And it's shifted.
Yeah, it's like there's almost a tiny little section of the screen being like pulled out. I don't know. It's hard to describe.
Yeah,
but.
I know what it is. I'm just not very good at spotting it, so I don't want to sit here and say, oh, there's absolutely no screen tearing, because I honestly am just not good at spotting that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But overall, the game ran well. My one gripe with it, and obviously it's a beta, so whatever, and it's a very weird gripe, but you can't, so it's played in the browser. You can't exit the game, do something else on your browser, and then go back into the game. The moment you exit out of the game, you have to exit the game, if that makes sense. So it's not treated as like a separate tab in the browser.
You can't pause it and go check your email, is what you're saying.
Yeah, because it'll ask you return to game or exit game. When you exit game, it closes down the game. So it's not treated as another tab in Chrome. It's treated as its own windowed thing. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, it's basically like running its own exe program almost. Like you would have to. Well, I guess no, because you could even, like, if you have a game that isn't on Steam or something, you could tab out of that easily, and it would put you right back where you were. So,
anyways, the other things I played: Forza Horizon 4. Not much to say there. Enjoying it still. Playing it here and there. Yeah, not much else to report on. It is what it is. And the other thing I've been playing a lot is MTG Arena, which is Magic the Gathering, their Hearthstone kind of thing. I was in the alpha a while back. I don't know if you remember me talking about that, Dom, when they originally had like the closed alpha. It's an open beta now, so everyone's able to play it. It's kind of a bummer that there's no like invite friend feature. So like my friends who have Magic the Gathering online or Arena, we can't play against each other or make decks or whatever, which is weird for an open beta. You'd assume by the open beta they'd have that feature, right? I don't know. Is that asking too much, Dom? Like if you were playing a game and it was an open beta and it was a multiplayer based game, wouldn't you assume that you could like privately challenge your friend?
Yeah, by beta, I would think. I mean, is that part of? Is that supposed to be there? I mean,
yeah. I mean, it's so before MTG Arena, the Hearthstone like game, they always had a yearly release that was just a standalone game, and that was obviously a feature because like Magic the Gathering, play with friends, right? It just they've said it's going to be a feature in the game at launch. It's just weird to me that it isn't in the open beta. It's kind of a gripe thing, you know what I mean? It's like, well, that's weird.
I see what you're saying though. If they said like that's part of the game. By beta, I would hope that they're at least testing it. But
yeah. It's Magic the Gathering, so there's not much else to say. If you know Magic, you know Magic. The things I'll say about the beta specifically, though, is there isn't... So, there's Magic cards. The thing is, there's not enough variety in terms of, like, holographic, like, special holographic cards or, like, cards that have, like, really cool animations. Like, some of the cards have animations, like Hearthstone does, but very, very few. And I'm assuming maybe they're just working on more of those, obviously, in the back end. It's like 80% to what I want it to be. Like, there isn't, like, all of the bells and whistles yet. It's just standard. If you were going to play Magic the Gathering in an online format, this is what you'd expect. But there's not all of the bells and whistles that turn a basic card game into what Hearthstone is, with all of the flashy animations and bells and whistles and stuff. So... they're like 80% there, and I just want that other 20% because I'm really enjoying what's there so far. I just hope that they get to that 100%, you know what I mean? And they don't kind of like half-ass it. So, the deck building is cool too. For somebody like me who's experienced with Magic, it's not an issue, but I have heard a big problem with people trying the open beta is that it's a little obtuse for new people in terms of deck building. They give you pre-made decks, but obviously those are only so good, you know what I mean? And when you want to create your own deck, there isn't a whole lot of tools there for newer players to feel comfortable doing that. And like I said, from my perspective, I don't really experience that because I'm really, familiar with Magic, but I wanted to read about that and see how newer players were feeling about it. And I guess, the tools aren't there to feel comfortable making your own deck. So they kind of are just stuck to either using the pre-made decks or, just rumbling through it and trying to figure out how to make their own deck and make it work. Because it's one thing you can put 60 cards in a deck, but to make it good, right, or competitive, that's a whole other thing. So that's pretty much it for me. What about you, Dom?
I don't think I played any games since we last talked.
Nothing.
Yeah, not a single game because I had already finished up Spider-Man. Actually, oh good lord, what am I talking about? Never mind. Mario Party.
Yeah, I was like, You said you were like, Mario Party's coming out tomorrow. I can't wait. Me and Emily are going to play the hell out of it. And you're like, I didn't play anything.
Oh, man. I forgot. Because it's like in a different category for me almost. Like, because we did that almost like, 99% of the time I'm playing games, it's just single player or by myself. So, like, when I'm playing Mario Party with Emily, it's like a totally different thing. But, yeah, we played a couple rounds of that, and it's fantastic. It's very akin to like the Mario parties I remember from N64, right? The first like 3 games, I think.
Yeah.
Played like dozens and dozens and dozens. I'd even say hundreds of hours of those games when I was a kid. So this is like it's straight out of that playbook, I guess. So so far that for the main mode, there's only 3 maps, and I suppose you unlock one more that we haven't seen yet. But kind of wish there was more maps, more boards, I guess. But I guess instead of that, they supplemented it with like a lot of other game modes entirely. There's this like boating mode, and I think 2 others, but I've not tried either of those yet. So we've just been doing the regular mode, the regular standard, Mario Party mode, and that's been fun. The boards themselves so far kind of not as complex as I remember in the N64 games. There's not as much going on. As far as like special events and like shortcuts and different things, they're kind of simpler, which is a bit of a bummer, but they're still good. Still good enough, I'd say. But the mini games so far have been all really good, especially with the Joy-Cons. They do some different things. Some of the different games use the Joy-Cons in different ways. So one of the I guess I don't know if it was a complaint, but it was an observation for this game is you can't play it, in handheld mode or with a pro controller. You have to have like single Joy-Cons to be able to play it.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, which sounds limiting, but when you play the game, it makes sense because a lot of the mini games are built around single Joy-Con functionality, basically. Yeah.
Unless you're a person who's been having a lot of issues with the Switch's wireless syncing issues, and you're about to pull your fucking massive amount of hair on your head out over that, it would make you want Mario Party less.
Yeah, so far, because we used to have that problem bad with Mario Kart every so often. Like someone would just like veer off the track because the analog stick would apparently
it's really frustrating.
come unsynced. We didn't have that at all with Mario Party, so I don't know if that's just better luck or I don't know, but that could potentially be an issue. But
yeah, if we didn't have the sync issues, then it's like, okay, get over it. Just use the controller they're asking you. It's the default controller for the system, but the fact that it's just been so fucking shoddy, and I know I'm jaded. I'm sorry, I'm fucking projecting here, but still, it is an issue, and it is weird that they're like forcing you to use their clearly weakest signaled controller when you're obviously going to be doing it around a bunch of people. But
yeah, and that might be. I mean, I don't know if that's still a problem or if they fixed that because like I saw like the launch Joy-Cons, so I don't know if they've since.
No, it is very much a problem still.
Okay, so even
you
if
mean like in
Joy-Cons
new
tomorrow.
Joy-Cons being manufactured today?
Okay.
Well, I don't think it's an issue. I don't think they can fix through like a hardware update, Dom.
It's just like an interference problem, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, even with that though, once you start playing a bunch of the mini games, I don't know why I keep trying to say like video games. Once you start to play a bunch of the mini games, it makes perfect sense why they. I mean, the whole game is designed around a single Joy-Con being used. So, and the HD rumble and using it in different ways. So it would have been extremely more complicated for the developers to have to develop this game for several different types of input for different types of controllers. It would have fundamentally changed the game where like some mini games wouldn't be playable. It's the single Joy-Con use is like it's fundamental and integral to like how this game is designed. So once you start playing it, it makes sense. Like, okay, I see why this is how it had to be. So.
And out of the box, they want to make sure that two people can play, right? So, like, they don't want to make sure you have to buy another controller. So, if it's two Joy-Cons, then two people can play out of the box. So,
yeah, but even if they weren't forcing
everyone
you to use
who has a
Joy-Cons,
Switch
you could still
has
do that.
at least two Joy-Cons because it came with them. You know what I mean? Whereas not everyone has a Pro controller necessarily.
Yeah, and not everyone has two working Joy-Cons.
Wow, yeah, true. Good point. And you can't. I don't even think it would let you play in handheld mode because it just wouldn't work. So I assume that it would just.
But to me, I gotta say, like, that feels like bad game design to me. If you're like, I mean, first of all, I just feel like we're still dealing with this whole Nintendo thing of like, which controller are you gonna use? And of course, it's a whole thing with Smash. But like, the fact that like Joy-Cons aren't bad, but they're like a downgrade from the fucking Pro controller. And I just wish that there wasn't this whole like toss-up thing. Like, oh, are you using the Wii U Pro controller? Or are you using the tablet? Or are you using the fucking Wii throwback gamepad that's supposed to look like a SNES controller? Like, there's just, I don't like that Nintendo does this. I don't like that. Yeah. Like, can you imagine, other than a VR game, Sony would never, design a game where it's like, well, it's not a move game per se, but you have to use a move controller. I'm not.
So that's different, though, right? It would be that you can. For Sony, it would be you can only use a DualShock because the DualShock is what comes with the PlayStation. The Joy-Cons are what come with the Nintendo Switch, not the Pro controller.
Yeah, and that's kind of.
I made a bad example there. I'm just saying I don't appreciate the way that they designed the game in that fashion, and it may not even be necessarily detrimental or bad. I just personally, that's not how I would have preferred it if I was in the fucking boardroom and they were asking me, which they weren't.
So yeah, the flip is you now get mini games that are built around like the unique functionality of Joy-Cons, right? And the HD rumble and being able to tilt it and different things like that. Like the mini games are designed around those features.
Pro controllers have HD rumble, just so you know. FYI.
It's hard to explain. You got to just play the mini games. I said it again.
The video games.
Yeah, like they just fundamentally wouldn't work with any other controller. It's hard to explain, and there's so many mini games. There's like 80, so it's hard to remember off the top of my head.
The games that they've designed would not work with a controller. I'm saying you shouldn't have designed your damn games that way.
Well, that's what you get though. So like by designing them around the Joy-Cons, you're able to get different types of games that wouldn't exist otherwise, right?
Absolutely, I can appreciate that.
Yeah. So it's you kind of got to go either way. I'm glad they at least picked one route and stuck with it. Where instead of trying to make it work with all controllers and like make sacrifices in the game design, they just said, "Oh, we're doing Joy-Cons, single Joy-Cons, and that's it." And that way they can focus, all their creative strategy around that instead of trying to make it fit a bunch of places.
Perfect counterexample of that is actually Mario Tennis, because Mario Tennis has a swing mode where you use the Joy-Cons like you did on Wii Tennis with the gyro, like an actual tennis racket you're swinging.
Right.
But they're not saying when you play Mario Tennis you have to use gyro Joy-Cons. Like, no, you can use any one you want, but if we're going to do something cool and unique with the Joy-Cons, we'll make that a separate mode so that you're not like anchored to the Joy-Cons all the time. Just as a counterexample, I think that's an interesting way to do it. Like, it's cool that they have unique Joy-Con games, but it would have been interesting if that was a separate mode.
Yeah,
because basically what it is now, think
possible,
about this.
Yeah.
If I'm trying to have a multiplayer Super Mario Party game, I have to have enough Joy-Cons, and I know that they split obviously because there's two in a set, but I have to have enough Joy-Cons to cover everybody, whereas before I was just having enough Nintendo Switch controllers to cover everybody, mixing between Joy-Con and Pro, which, by the way, I don't know if you guys have noticed or not. Sorry, I'm not trying to be like jokey towards you, but like, by the way, these accessories are expensive as all fuck. So if you telling me like, no, the two $80 Pro controllers that you spent $160 on before tax, yeah, they don't work for this game. Sorry about that. We designed it otherwise. I'm like, man, shove it, bro. Shove it.
Yeah, but you also get two Joy-Cons for the price of one Pro controller. So I understand from your perspective. Obviously, you have a very personal perspective of like, I already bought all these Pro controllers, so it kind of screws me. But for somebody who's buying it that doesn't have that issue, it's like, well, to get 2 other people to be able to play, I only have to spend $70 for 2 other Joy-Cons. You know what I mean? So you have 4 players.
Right. But you could do that even if they weren't forcing you. Even if Pro controllers were an option, you could still use that like cheaper Joy-Con option.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's all it comes down to, I think, is like limiting the controller use for the game allows them to develop better mini games.
Yeah.
Basically is what I'm saying. Yeah, at the cost of like you can't use as many different controllers, but when you are just using the one controller, it's just a better experience. So
I wouldn't have had an issue if this game was called Super Mario Joy-Con Party. I think that would be fine.
That's fair, I guess. If you think of like,
or
all the,
you could make it like Joy-Con, like Comic Con, and they're like the Mario Party that they're going to is a Nintendo convention that's called the Joy-Con. Sorry, I'm going like fucking fanfic here. Sorry.
No, I mean you do have a point. So if you think like, because what I was gonna say earlier to combat some of that is like, PSVR games only work with the PSVR headset and Move controllers a lot of the time, right? But pretty much every VR game has VR in the title, right? Like Skyrim VR.
Yeah, that is a known separate entity.
Right. So I get your point. Yeah, it could have been. It definitely
it's the same way I don't
appreciate going into it.
I don't appreciate the fact that you couldn't figure out a solution for Severed to where I can only play that on handheld mode. I don't appreciate the fact that a lot of games are handheld only or not, no handheld at all like this one is. It's like, if you're going to have a fucking hybrid console, you need to figure it out, man. You need to make a solution, even if it's not the best, and you could even warn people like, we recommend you play this handheld because it's Severed and it's a touch game, but there is this other option with the Pro controller. This goes back to the conversation. I'm sorry I'm going way too far on this, but I'll just say, give players more options. Stop taking them away. And I understand that this is a more complicated situation. They would have to develop it entirely different, but like, stop fucking Square Enix. Please stop forcing me to watch subtitles. Like, stop forcing me to play in this fucking way that's totally arbitrary and has nothing to do with the actual game experience, like creators' content. Like, give players more options, not less, is my philosophy.
Yeah.
Well, overall, the game it's super fun, man. Like, it's really fun. At the end of the day, it's Mario Party. It has like all the good things that I remember being fun about Mario Party, like the random mini games, the randomness in the map, where like, you could just have bad luck and you step on a spot and you get a star stolen and things like that.
Kind of the Mario Kart of it all, the rubber banding type of feel.
Yeah, so that's all there, which is what makes it ultimately fun, where there's skill involved in the mini games. It's better in that sense though than Mario Kart, because it's like every mini game is different, so like you're not necessarily good at all of them.
Yeah, like me, when people come over here, I know every track and how it like turns, and I even know the mirror mode version of it, and so I'm like so familiar. But like this, it's like, no, we're gonna keep you on your toes. That's cool.
You could get to that point eventually if you play every mini game enough, but yeah, it's gonna take longer.
Right.
But yeah, it's got everything Mario Party should have, in my opinion. I didn't play the last couple that apparently weren't as good, so I can't speak to that, but they definitely went back to the roots on this one, it feels like. So we're having a blast playing Mario Party so far.
And you haven't been able to put your Switch with another Switch screen and like line them up like they did in the trailer, right? Like,
no, I haven't.
From one
I only know one other person in around me that has a Switch.
That's what I figured. Right.
It's kind of a unique scenario.
Let's for you, Jordan, let's try to keep it to just what you've been playing, because we're nearing 45 minutes, so we're actually running really long.
I'll just like go out and give a couple shout outs real quick, Jerrad, because like I said, I feel bad for being the catalyst for this long show.
This week's antagonist. It's fine.
I'm the freak of the week. I'm the villain.
Yeah,
I'm the villain. So just shout out. Of course, I've been reading a bunch of comics. Want to give a quick shout out to a comic called Outpost Zero, which is I just watched The Thing with Kurt Russell, and these are very kind of similar plot lines. Outpost Zero is about these people that live in a dome in like an Antarctic situation, so that's cool sci-fi comic. Recommended. 4 issues in. Issue 5 comes out in December. started watching a cool show called Jormungand, which we know that means that's the name of the world serpent, as we've been dealing with that mythology, that Norse mythology. And it's an anime series about arms dealer and her little crew of mercenaries. Very cool, fun, and I don't know. I'm kind of into that whole like military espionage, underground black market shit. So that's definitely up my alley. Played more Bravely Default. I'm definitely still enjoying that game. Played. I feel like there's a couple other things I played, but in the interest of time and all that. Played more like Lumines, played a little more Into the Breach. God, that game is just so fucking hard. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to play that game, because it's just like every decision you make, you did something wrong. Like, you can't make a decision. Yeah. Like, the stakes are high, and then they tack on like 10 more extra levels on top of that. It's like, holy shit, like every decision I make, I fuck myself over. And even if it's like the absolute best decision, and I've been making the best decisions throughout the entire match, just like I get fucked over. So I don't know how many times I can keep getting my teeth kicked in, even though I really like that game. I like the time travel aspect. I like a lot of the sci-fi vibes of it. And then, yeah, since I'm just doing quick shout-outs, I want to say shout-out to Deadpool #5. First of all, it's a fucking hilarious comic. It's Halloween-themed. It's zombies. It's got a really funny reoccurring joke that's like simple and not like, complex, but it's just goofy and funny. And it also has Deadpool referencing the television show Friday Night Lights when he says, I'm going to go go all Coach Taylor on this chick over here. To give her a pet. Excuse me, Dom, I'm trying to speak right now. It's like I don't fucking interrupt people all the time. He's like giving this girl a pep talk, and he's like, I'm about to go all Coach Taylor on this chick, and I was just like, fuck yeah, Friday Night Lights for the win, Deadpool for the win. And Jerrad, I do need to mention this because I meant to mention it last week. You are a big fan of the movie Green Room, correct?
Yeah.
We've talked about that. The director of Green Room, his film before that, his first one was called Blue Ruin. Have you seen Blue Ruin?
No, heard good things though.
Yeah, definitely need to check out Blue Ruin. I'm not going to say anything about the plot because I think it's so great. It's a really interesting movie, great thriller. If you like Green Room, you'll also like this. It stars the dude who's like the nice Nazi in Green Room that kind of helps them out and eventually like wants to get arrested at the end, Jerrad. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, so he's actually in all three of this dude's movies because his third one just came out, and it's a Netflix movie called Hold the Dark, starring Jeffrey Wright from Westworld, the black dude from Westworld.
The wolf, like weird, yeah. Has like wolves. In, like,
the movie. Yeah, I thought you were describing his character in Westworld. I was
no,
about wolves. So, trying to speed through, but basically Hold the Dark is just a cool, like, tense thriller where this guy goes up to Antarctica to kill this wolf that killed this chick's son, and then ends up getting involved in, like, her village situation, her family situation, all this crazy, cool, creepy, thrillery, creepy, mysterious shit that is also creepy. So, definitely recommend Blue Ruin and Hold the Dark, especially for you, Jerrad, because I know you're already a fan of that director with Green Room. So, shout out to that. I think Green Room is still his best movie, but I also think the Blue Ruin and Hold the Dark are great movies in their own right. So,
R.I.P. Anton Yelchin. That was such a good actor.
R.I.P. Hey man, I will never say that enough. Like, R-fucking-I-P, dude. That dude is so talented. Shout out to him in Thoroughbreds. Shout out to him in Green Room.
Let's hop into the news. So the first bit of news, it's actually something we haven't covered in the past weeks because there's been so many updates and developments. I wanted to wait until we had some more definitive information about the whole situation. So by now, if you're listening to a gaming podcast, you're familiar with what happened to Telltale on September 21st. My birthday. What a great birthday present. But this comes by way of IGN by Laura Prudhomme. At New York Comic Con, Robert Kirkman, creator of The Walking Dead and owner of Skybound, announced, We have successfully negotiated with Telltale Games for our company Skybound to come in and see Season 4 of the Telltale game to completion. According to a statement from Skybound, the company has, quote, taken ownership of Telltale's The Walking Dead final season and will finish it. Skybound will work with members of the original Telltale team to finish the story in a way that fans deserve. Skybound will continue to update fans on the status of the game through their various social media platforms. So, looks like Skybound's going to come in and rescue this game. The one thing that was important to me, and I think to a lot of people, is where they state that they're working with members of the original Telltale team.
Yep.
Because that means that, A, those people who kind of got screwed are going to have a second chance to finish something they helped create, and B, it just makes you feel a lot better about the situation in general, you know? It's
and
cool.
Also, we're going to get probably the least bastardized version of this season.
Yeah.
It is a conceivable outcome for me, so.
Yeah. It's just interesting you were talking about before the show of, like, why wasn't Skybound an option for Telltale before?
Why were they not first on your fucking list, Telltale, you know?
Yeah. Robert Kirkman's awesome. If you're not familiar with him, he's a great creator, and he just seems like an all-around nice guy. And I think the moment he heard about the news, I guarantee you he was one of the first people to be like, well, how can we help them get this finished? You know what I mean? I just think he's that type of guy.
Shout out to his new comic Oblivion song.
Yeah, great. Dom, what do you think about this situation? Do you think people are going to have an issue when we find out exactly how many of those original members are going to be on the team, or the fact that any of them will be involved at all is good?
Yeah, any of them at all is good, definitely. But and this feels good. Like, it feels like a hint of good news in the whole thing. But I think it's still, you know, the majority of everything, it still sucks. Like, there's still a lot of shit. A lot of people still got screwed over. Like, probably the majority of people there still ended up getting screwed over at the end of this. So what I was hoping, I kind of hoped that, you know, they paid a big chunk of money for this to Telltale, that Telltale can, you know, whatever the heck is still going on there, can at least start to maybe cut some severance checks with that, or whatever it is.
Yeah, right. Good fucking luck, dude. That's
who knows how that works out. But you know what I mean? That would be my hope, because, like,
they're paying their debtors first, I'm sure, unfortunately,
or whatever it has to be. I would hope that, yeah, the money used to finance this from Skybound, I would hope would go towards, you know, righting some of the other wrongs, you know, that are the fallout.
But that's also
Telltale
assuming
closing.
like, oh, these completely incompetent heads over at Telltale are now going to start knowing how to deal with money. You know, I don't think they do.
Well, you would hope that, right? Because now they're getting sued and they're a bit under the microscope, and there's even potential like criminal things that could be brought against them if they weren't transparent enough in certain aspects. Possibly, I don't know. You know, I'm not a lawyer, but that's a possibility, right? If there's certain controls that are supposed to be over finances, and
it should be a fucking crime to be pumping out games with the license backing that you guys fucking had. I mean, when, like, think about this, when, like, Back to the Future and Jurassic World are some of your smallest licenses that you used to work on back in the day. Like, you can't make your studio work with Batman, Game of Thrones, fucking Minecraft, some of the biggest IPs in the fucking world, Guardians of the Galaxy. You couldn't make that shit work. The Walking Dead, like, get the fuck out of here, guys. Like, ugh.
The problem is they overextended themselves, because this first season of Walking Dead sold so well that they're like, oh, we'll just partner with all of these licenses and make games. And whether the games are good or bad, they didn't sell to the level that Walking Dead Season 1 did. So then they were expecting them to, because they were the licenses, and they were good games. Obviously, they had issues. But they took the quantity over quality approach. And not to say that any of the games they released after that weren't good, but you obviously saw that, like, there was problems with them not updating the engine and stuff like that. So
that's what I was gonna say. Is you could say quantity over quality, not necessarily in the writing quality. Their writing quality, I think, was growing exponentially throughout the studio's lifetime. However, I think the quantity over quality is definitely a thing, because the quality of the actual gameplay experience, the mechanics that you're getting, the frame drops or the clipping or the glitches, like, that quality was not there. And so I think if you guys had, like, really nailed down a couple of licenses, you know, take Batman, take Game of Thrones, take Walking Dead, and really nail those and make them these, like, kind of like what you were talking about last week with French studio that does Life is Strange, Don't Nod, Jerrad, where you were saying, like, it's just a tick above. It's just like they just put that little bit of extra effort in there that just gives it. It's still not and I've only played season 1 of Life is Strange. It's still not super polished, and it's still a little bit janky, and it is still a little bit low budge, but like they're not shitting them out like Telltale was from a gameplay perspective, which was very disappointing.
And that's the thing too, is mechanics wise, what's different about Batman season 2 and the first season of Walking Dead in terms of gameplay mechanics? Nothing.
Oh, well, I thought you were going to say Batman season 1. I think Batman season 1 is a lot worse from gameplay mechanics. Because you're playing most of the time as Bruce fucking Wayne. It's like,
what I'm talking about,
I'm just saying I agree that they like. There was a lot of times where they were almost like going backwards with the gameplay stuff that they were implementing.
Yeah, they didn't really implement anything new,
Absolutely. Not.
So yeah, that's it for that. I kind of want to get through these news stories, not super fast, but at a reasonable pace since we ran kind of long there at the beginning of the show. The second news story, something we've been waiting on for a while. This comes by way of the PlayStation blog. Sid Schumann wrote this one up. PSN name changes are finally happening, kind of. So, on their blog, PlayStation announced the ability to change your PSN online ID, and it will be rolling out as a beta feature in the PlayStation Preview program. The first change is free, very much like Xbox, and changes after that will cost $9.99. For PlayStation Plus members, it'll be free the first time, and after that it'll be $4.99. The feature will be compatible with PS4 games published after April 1st, 2018. All of them.
What?
No, listen.
I did not hear that caveat until just now.
So the feature will be compatible with PS4 games published after April 1st, 2018, and a majority of the most popular PS4 games released before this date. Depends
so
on
they
what
are
mentioned.
retrofitting.
Yeah, but they say
what
most
does that
popular.
even mean?
Yeah, exactly. I'm assuming first-party games. That'd be my assumption.
But what does it even mean that like it's not compatible? So like,
That's
if
what I
you
said.
had a platinum, if I had a platinum in Assassin's Creed Unity that they're probably not going to give a fuck about, which I do, and I wanted to change my name, which I don't, thankfully. Then what? My trophies don't show. My platinum doesn't show up for Unity because it's not on that list.
I think if you had like Turd War 62 and you changed to like Jordan 62, if you went and like loaded up Rainbow Six Siege, you'd still be Turd War 62.
Oh, gotcha. But I'll still have my platinums.
Yeah, and I think they said there'd be some issues with like
games.
you might run into some bugs, probably like the game having trouble loading your profile or something. But it never said anything about it affecting your trophies or anything like that. So don't worry about that. He says as he knocks on wood. It went on to say...
Yeah, I was going to say, thank God you got your, like, standard already Xbox name that you were using, Jerrad, because it's like, it's a fucking disaster if you don't have the right PSN name.
Yeah, well, it's funny, too, because, like, for Xbox, my original gamer tag was Hulk, but it was bolded, because I was a Call of Duty kid, so it was capital I, capital H, capital I, so it looks like a bold H, space, capital U, capital I, so it looks like a bold U, space, capital I, capital L.
Oh, my God. Yeah. That just, like, what you just described gives me such vibes of Xbox 360 Live, Live, like, circa 2010 or whatever.
Those were the days.
Exactly.
Yeah, like XX Anime Tit Lover 69XX.
The blog post went on to say, quote, however, please note, not all games and applications for PS4, PS3, and PS Vita systems are guaranteed to support the online ID change, and users may occasionally encounter issues or errors in certain games. The list of full games supported that are published before April 1st will be listed on PlayStation.com. The full rollout is planned for early 2019. For me, this struck me as...
IGN, get fucking bent, because I watched their news video, and I'm not saying they're like paid off or anything. I'm just saying they fucked up when they told me all the information, how much it was going to cost, when it would debut, except for the fact that and it's only compatible with certain fucking games. Like, you didn't think that was relevant to the fucking news information? IGN, really? Fucking come on.
For me, like I told you guys before we started recording, I think this reads as it's going to be rough on PS4. Hopefully it's all squared away when PS5 comes. You know what I mean? I think they wanted to implement it. There's like a lot of weird caveats here. I'm happy that it seems like whenever PSN, like PlayStation news happens, I'm like, that's cool, but... And I feel like I don't want to be pessimistic, but a lot of their announcements always come with that but, though. It's like, this is great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But, you know what I mean?
You're not wearing the Xbox glasses right now. You're not wearing the emerald tinted glasses, because they'd always do that. Every time Sony's like, dude, we got some cool shit for you, but you got to show off one of your toes. It's like, well, fucking, I don't know if I want it then.
Yeah. I'm just glad that whether or not it's like perfect, at least there's this option. It shows progress towards making the right thing happen. We talked about the other bummers. Like they announced this the year you're not having PSX is the year you announce this. It's kind of like a deflated announcement. Like it's like, dude, imagine how hard this would have hit at PSX. You know, it's really unfortunate.
Sony is in a weird spot as far as like customer appreciation and customer, the connection that they have with like their audience, especially like they're just getting embarrassed by Phil Spencer and Microsoft at this point as far as how much they appreciate the consumer. So it is and this does not help. The but part of the PSN name change or the lack of PSX is just like, you guys are really doing a good job of shooting yourselves in the foot for the starting line of next gen, because Microsoft is fucking raring to go.
I want to give props to PlayStation on one thing, and please, I could be totally wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure I'm accurate. Xbox gamertag changes cost $9.99 no matter what, like whether you're a gold member or not. So the fact that if you're a PlayStation Plus member, it's only $5 as opposed to $10 is actually pretty cool. I have to commend him on that.
Oh,
yeah, I don't think that's a thing on Xbox as far as I remember. So that is cool.
It's, if we're living in a perfect world, like game consoles are the only accounts I've ever known of having to pay to change your account name.
Yeah.
If it's not, obviously, as long as it's something that isn't already being used, like,
or if it isn't offensive and you get reported. And
can you imagine any other internet account you use, whether it be fucking PayPal or Facebook or Bank of like anything? You would they'd never be like, oh, you want a new account name? Well. Susie's going to have to type that new one into the server, so that's going to be $10. It's like, no, that's fucking...
You also have to think about the base of people the consumers that use it, though. Like, imagine people who, I know people that would change their gamer tag every time a new game came out or every week. So it's like making it paid kind of creates a wall there of like, yo, come on, make better decisions with your life.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense.
Give us money if you're not going to...
It's kind of the space, the gaming space, where it's like, this guy could be abusing someone and then change their name before they're able to get reported or whatever, so like they don't know to ban the anime tit liver because his name is now
really cool guy one.
No, his name is now hentai tit liver. So he's gone darker.
What were you gonna say, Dom?
Oh, I feel like because when Xbox Live was taking off, especially on 360, right? Like it was huge and. Those days, like we were just talking about, Jerrad, where everyone was like, XOI, CI, 420 Vape Lord 69, XOZI, whatever. And when things were getting really competitive and stuff, and Xbox Live was just a huge deal, and some geniuses at Microsoft were like, a decision was made before then, obviously, but like they just said, oh, we could charge people for this, right? Because like it's something people were very willing to pay for. Like you said, a lot of people changed their names often, like. During the first 2 years, whatever Call of Duty 4 was out, I think I changed my name 3 or 4 times.
Paying for it?
Yeah.
Motherfucker.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I did it a couple times, and then.
Dude, and it's $10. That's almost a brand new game.
It was actually worse because you had to buy points or whatever.
Points.
So you were buying $12, $15 worth.
You'd always end up with extra points that you couldn't really do much
Fuck that!
with.
I'm getting a new game. I'll be anime tit lover for all I care.
Yeah.
He wasn't the only one, though. That was huge during the Call of Duty scene. Like
I
Modern
know.
Warfare.
I know.
Man.
Mm-hmm. I've changed mine once on Xbox. I had an account that is still, I guess, kind of floating out there. I don't think Microsoft deletes those accounts. It was Thunderhawk42, just like my PSN is. And then I will say that their password recovery system has always been fucking bunk, and Microsoft's has. And so I came to Xbox One and couldn't access that. So now I'm Thunderhawk42X. But it does suck that I'm not on my main name or whatever. So.
It's interesting. Like I said, I wanted to give them at least some props there. We'll see how it goes with the ending of PS4 and PS5, how this whole thing rolls out. And they said it's planned for early 2019. I could guarantee you.
Good luck.
Maybe not guarantee you, but like I could easily see in early 2019. They're like, yeah, we've delayed
summer
the rollout. Yeah, so we'll see. Some good news though. There, people have been waiting for that announcement.
That's as nebulous as a Windows you can give, other than just 2019.
Yeah. let's see here. Third news story. Project xCloud announced. This is by way of Microsoft's own blog. Microsoft has officially announced their streaming initiative called Project xCloud, powered by Azure. Microsoft's cloud services, Azure, however you want to pronounce it, tomato, potato. Their goal is to allow you to game on any device without being beholden to a specific piece of hardware. They stated it's important to make the process super easy for developers and are going to give them the tools to deploy and dramatically scale access to their games across all devices through Project xCloud with no additional work needed on their end. A service of this caliber needs infrastructure, and Azure gives them that, with 54 data center regions and services currently available in 140 countries. The scale of Azure as is will allow Microsoft to deliver the Project xCloud to players worldwide. Their announcement of Project xCloud closed with, quote, developers and researchers at Microsoft Research are creating ways to combat latency through advances in network topology and video encoding and decoding. Project xCloud will allow the capability to make game streaming possible on 4G networks and will dynamically scale to push against the outer limits of what's possible on 5G networks as they roll out globally.
4G networks?
Yeah.
So we're not even talking Wi-Fi, damn.
Currently, the test experience is running at 10 megabits per second. Our goal is to deliver high-quality experience at the lowest possible bit rate that works across the widest possible networks, taking into consideration the uniqueness of every device and network.
Whoa. Lowest possible bit rate. Can I have a higher bit rate if I've got good internet?
Oh, yeah.
So
basically what they're saying is they just want to be able to have as many people be able to use it, but if you have better internet, you'll experience it at a probably not a higher quality, but the low quality won't be bad either, if that makes sense. They want to have a good experience for the lowest possible common denominator. Yeah. The last thing I want to talk about before we're going to open discussion is about Microsoft Azure. Azure has the highest annual revenue for a cloud service, inching out Amazon Web Services at $21.2 billion per year, as well as the second highest adoption rate at 58% behind Amazon Web Services at 68%. And for reference, because we talk about PlayStation, Xbox competing, Gaikai, which is Sony's main cloud service, wasn't listed in the top 10 in any major category on all of the statistics that I saw for cloud-based services.
But we were kind of going back and forth. In my opinion, I don't think it would qualify for that list is the reason why.
It would, yes. These aren't consumer-based cloud services. These are just cloud.
No, I know, but this is like... I understand that Gaikai has its own separate name and website still, and is like still its own kind of company. It's not called Sony Cloud or whatever you want to call it, but it is an internal division. That's why I feel like it just...
Azure is an internal division of Microsoft as well.
Yeah.
But you don't have to go through Microsoft to fuck with Azure, is that right? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, but that's not what these lists are based...
Like Dom's company, you were saying that you guys mess with Azure, you guys use Azure products, right? So you can go to Azure, you can go to Azure.com, let's say, Azure.com if that's what it is, and you can, purchase a plan or a package, I'm sure, for your business or your home or whatever. I don't think that that's an option with Gaikai is what I'm trying to say.
But when you talk about revenue, it's any revenue that those services create. So PlayStation Now would be considered revenue in this. So that it would be included, yeah.
So the point, I think, Jordan, the point of that list is basically like, no matter how it's accessed or whatever, Gaikai is limited right now to PlayStation services, right? So of course it's not going to make as much money as Azure, but the point isn't necessarily that. The point is Azure is huge, and giant companies all over the world use it, for cloud computing and different things. So that's why it's more positioned to give a better service for game streaming, than Gaikai basically.
Yeah. We obviously know it's not going to get as much revenue as the others, but it also isn't. It doesn't have the infrastructure that any of the others do either. So that's why we're comparing.
Right. Yeah.
I understand where you're coming from, though, Jordan. The one thing
I think it's apples to oranges. I'll have to agree to disagree.
Well, yeah, we'll just leave it at that.
I might be totally fucking wrong on this, guys. I'm not saying I'm right, you're wrong. I'm just saying I don't think that I think what we believe to be the truth are two different things.
Yeah. Also, whether it qualified or not, I don't even know if it would end up on the list either way. You know what I mean? Because the numbers that they're throwing out for these things, it's like Gaikai is only towards Sony, and it's only really used in PlayStation Now. So it's
that's what I'm saying is it's only used in PlayStation Now. So how could it be propped up next to these others? Because no business is using Gaikai in the way that Dom's business is using Azure.
Yeah, and
it's not
that's
even
the point.
An option or a possibility.
Yeah,
you can't do that even if you wanted to pay Gaikai. take my money, they're still not going to do it because that's not what they do.
Yeah, but the conversation is that Azure has the infrastructure in place, no matter if it's attached to Microsoft or not. Like, it has everything in place to be more successful than Gaikai at doing those services. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, a roundabout way to get to the same point. So we can all assume that this is the backbone that's going to be part of that rumored Xbox console, right? Because remember the Scarlet, it's going to be a regular traditional console, and then we heard about that really cheap, like $100 streaming console. Do we assume it's obviously the backbone of it's going to be Project xCloud?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. It was a leading question. I was just waiting for you guys to.
Yeah.
The last bit of news here before we close out the show.
No, they're going to use Gaikai for the new Xbox consoles, Jared.
Yeah.
Dang it! It wasn't even on the list.
Yeah.
So
it's not even available.
This is a rumor, but it's by Jason Schreier and his sources. He has a pretty high, hit for his rumors and speculation. So this is via Kotaku. Jason Schreier. According to Schreier's sources, Microsoft is finalizing a deal to acquire beloved RPG developer Obsidian Entertainment. The studio is widely known for its work on KOTOR 2, which is Knights of the Old Republic 2, Fallout New Vegas, Pillars of Eternity, and South Park Stick of Truth. The studio is well revered for their high-quality releases, but have had their fair share of financial troubles, almost going out of business in 2012. Excuse me. Schreier's sources went on to say that it was 90% finished, and it was a question of a matter of when, not if. This is cool. I want to talk about Obsidian specifically and them getting bought, but do we assume that we're going to hear this announced at XO18? If it's that soon, remember we talked about, like, what are they going to announce at XO18? More studio acquisitions? Announcing that you bought Obsidian would be a pretty cool announcement, I think.
Yeah, that's probably what they're going for. If they can get everything, confirmed and signed by then, that would be a pretty cool announcement to have for that show. Yeah, definitely.
Well, and Obsidian, man, like, I think they're really overlooked for the quality that they deliver. Like, South Park Stick of Truth, though, had a troubled development cycle. People loved that game. It was a lot better than people expected it to be. The Pillars of Eternity games, they're not necessarily my cup of tea. I don't like that, like, weird 3/4 perspective computer RPG thing. Just not for me. But the audience loves them.
For whatever reason, I thought you would, like, that would definitely be a Jerrad thing, or that was a Jerrad thing.
That's like a hard out Jerrad thing.
Wow. So you're talking about, like, partially it's the isometric point of view.
Yeah.
And then partially it's just it being like that deep PC RPG feel.
Yeah, and that's funny because, like, if it's an isometric game that's like a hack and slash or more arcadey, I'm cool with that. Diablo. But when it gets like hardcore RPG and it's that perspective, I'm like, this is hard out. For me, I want a closer camera perspective for RPGs. That's just for me. They obviously made Fallout New Vegas, and for a lot of people, that's their favorite or best Fallout game. For me, it's my favorite Fallout game. Because it is the best one. Yeah, very good.
It just is.
KOTOR 2, which is revered, obviously the KOTOR games. Obsidian is a great development studio. If this deal, we assume it's going to get completed, gets done, this is a big win for Microsoft and Obsidian. For a studio that was almost out of business in 2012, that had to kind of go towards getting a deal to make a weird tank game and then kickstarting their games. Having the financial backing of Microsoft is awesome for the talent that they have. I think Fallout New Vegas, in my opinion, is the point in their company when they had the most resources available to them, right, working for Bethesda, and you saw the product that they came out with. I think that they're a studio that if you give them a lot of good resources, they'll make something great out of it. Because, like, Pillars of Eternity aren't bad games. They review very well. But you can tell the type of budget they were working with. You know what I mean? The Kickstarter budget. And even South Park Stick of Truth wasn't a super high budget. But with, like, Fallout New Vegas, you can kind of tell that they make the best of the money they're given. I just want to know from you guys, what do you think of Obsidian and Microsoft possibly buying them? What do you think about that acquisition?
I think this is cool because you could sometimes, in some scenarios, make the argument, maybe with the studio that makes Hellblade or whatever.
Ninja Theory?
Ninja Theory. I could see potentially someone make the argument that, like, they might be better off, they might have been better off on their own because they just did really well with Hellblade, right? So, and, you know, I think there's good arguments on both sides of that. But with Obsidian, because they've not been, like, extremely, you know, financially successful as of late, I think this is a win for both sides. Actually, all three sides, you know, Microsoft, Obsidian, and us, the consumers.
Yeah.
To me, I don't see, like, this is just, like I said, a win for all three sides. Where, like, they make awesome games, but they've been struggling a little bit lately with finances, not necessarily because of the bad products, but yeah, being bought by Microsoft gives them, some backing to make some more great experiences, which they're known to do, that might not otherwise be possible at all, right? And then of course we get to buy those awesome games. So I think this would be an awesome. I assume like it's a true rumor. It's coming from Schreier, so it's just whether or not they finish up the deal here. And I would hope to God they do, because I think this is good for everybody.
Yeah, and it's crazy because they bought Playground, which has made the Forza Horizon games, which are incredible. They bought Ninja Theory, which you mentioned, and then they bought the other two, Compulsion Games and what's the name of the other studio?
Yeah.
Off the top of my head. Anyways, those studios are good studios, but they're not to the quality of Obsidian. I would put Ninja Theory...
Undead Labs,
yeah. They're good studios, but I wouldn't put them to Obsidian's level. And then Ninja Theory and obviously Playground are obviously really good studios too. So this is like those three studios gathered up, plus the other two that are a little bit lower on the echelon. It's building a great first party.
It's a great team. It's a great lineup.
Yeah.
You don't want to have 5 LeBron Jameses on the court,
Yeah, exactly. And I really think like the Undead Labs Compulsion Games ones are the type of people that make the games between the big games that kind of build value in Game Pass. And I think that's
and
what
they're the diamonds. They're the diamonds in the rough that haven't been necessarily discovered yet. They might have a BioShock or something in their belt that they just haven't created yet, and they might be like Playground Games, who starts off kind of just doing the Forza side series, and now it's like, well, a lot of people like Horizon more than the regular Forza series, and a lot of people are really excited about them making a Fable game. So it's like these could be studios that are growing into circumstances similar to the way that Playground, is that right? Playground did.
And the crazy thing too
just said it 5 seconds ago. Couldn't remember.
The crazy thing too, to your point, Dom, about Ninja Theory getting purchased, in the video after they were acquired, they talked about like, though Hellblade did great, we're a not good sales game away from just closing. Like they're like, we have no financial security. Like the blanket could be pulled right underneath from our feet, or the carpet. I don't know, the blanket. But they talked about in that video of like, we love making our games, we love having creative control, but we have no security at all.
So real quick, I know we're going long on this show. I want to have a tiny little debate. Just a quick question. Do you guys think that we've seen this, Obsidian's basically the same situation as what you just described with Ninja Theory is the same situation, similar at least to Telltale, where it's just like we're making games that people like, games that people even buy a lot of times, but because we don't have that bigger studio or publisher backing, we're a lot of times struggling to make our own way, even though we have games that are technically successful. Is that due to the fact of shifting tides in the industry, or is it due to the fact that it's mismanagement, not in the way of like, oh, they're just shitty at managing, they just don't know how to manage in this whole new world that we're living in of gaming, and so they've not marketed their games correctly, or maybe they haven't, they've spent too much time or money developing a certain product when maybe they should have spread out to a couple of them, or vice versa, like where Telltale should have consolidated. I'm wondering if it's mismanagement in the sense of like ignorance, not just like being bad at managing.
Let's go ahead, Dom. I'll go after you.
I wouldn't even, in some and probably a lot of cases you can attribute, you can say there's mismanagement going on, but for these studios particularly that are making good stuff, I think it is a lot of it. It's just that's the nature of the industry. Like Jerrad said, like you can put out a great game as an independent studio, or even if you like worked with a publisher for one game, But even after that, even if that sold decently well, like that's only going to get you, that's only going to pay the bills for another year or whatever it is, right? It's kind of a paycheck to paycheck kind of thing. Even when you do great projects, right? The only way like you stick around and become like a long-lasting juggernaut is kind of when you are with a bigger publisher in a permanent kind of sense. That's kind of the vibe I get. Not
necessarily, because I do think there are examples. Obviously, I've been vocal about mentioning that CD Projekt Red's had plenty of issues in the last couple of years, but they are pull yourself up by your bootstraps, independent developer that has worked with publishers but still hasn't allowed them to be taken over. And there are
the
examples. There are examples, though, and so I think that maybe it's not that it's mismanagement. Maybe it's just that like some of these guys that are running these like mid-tier or indie level studios that aren't, you know, they are operating independently. Maybe those guys are the guy that, you know, we've heard this a million times, where a guy makes a game by himself and then it gets super successful and then he ends up building a studio out of that. I think the Limbo guys are like that. I think the the Super Metroid game that's like a tribute to Super Metroid. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, there's examples of that, right?
Yeah.
So maybe these guys are like super creative endeavor type of guys. They get through that first game, then they start managing a studio, and really, they're the artists. They're not the businessman.
Well,
and so they're great at like, oh, look at their second game. You know, the Dead Skull or whatever they're called in Europe that makes Limbo and Inside. Like, look at their second game. They've improved upon the art. They've improved upon the graphic design. Yada yada yada. But have they really done that much better of a job from a business perspective?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I have quite a bit to say on this, so I don't want to go too long. First off,
Sorry.
CD Projekt Red is a very special example because they also get a shit ton of money from Poland. Like, they get a lot of money from the government. Yeah. So I'm not saying that's wrong.
That may be, I know this might sound a little crazy, but I would say, you know, do your hustle, man. If you're a fucking indie developer out there, you are going to have to hustle a little bit. Whether it's getting money from the publisher, whether it's, you know, co-publishing Witcher 3 with WB Games, whether it's hooking up with your fucking government in your country that wants to subsidize you, which that happens over here and in Canada and all over the place, where like, you know, same thing with like films will get made all the time from like you know, government subsidies and stuff like that. So I think like, yeah, like, find your hustle. They are a special example, but like, that's what I'm saying is a lot of these indie guys, like, if you want to stick around, you guys are gonna have to like figure out a second hustle or something like that.
Yeah, let me get through my part real quick. So the indie developers, I think we're talking about having two different discussions, because though Obsidian is indie, they're much more like AA tier, mid tier. They're like a lot bigger company. They have hundreds of employees.
Sure.
So indie developers that are like less than 20 people, I think they're a completely different case, where I think they can sit above water a lot better. I think when you start getting to these mid tier developers where they're not the AAA publishers, they're kind of in that middle ground, they're having a harder time for a couple of reasons. These are my assumptions. One, I think there's not as much third-party contract work out there. I think a lot of times these big publishers aren't outsourcing it as much. Or, in the same case, I don't think these mid-tier developers, I think they're too prideful that they don't want to really work on contract work for other companies, and they want to kind of be tours of their own stuff, and they want to spend that time working on their own projects. And a lot of times that's how you
don't want to feel like a dinky indie studio.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of times that's how you bring in the extra money, is you do the contract work, right? You get your hands dirty in that stuff. I also think that we're getting to a point where games are very long, and I know a bunch of, I'll call them average gamers, I don't call them casuals or whatever, but like, they would rather spend $60 on a franchise they already know than spend $30 to $40 on the game they're not sure of. And I think it's...
Part of it is the discoverability thing, where there being too many games.
Yeah, that's part of it, but I've talked to people, Jordan, who just don't think games that are not by these big publishers are good. They're like, oh, it's got good reviews, but it's not by...
No, I know. Yeah. I mean, no offense to you, Dom, but you, like, famously said on this show, like, oh, I've never really played indie games before you got your Vita, right? So it's like, we even know that that's true from firsthand examples. So I totally agree with that, Jerrad, but I do think that there are enough examples, I guess, that I think if you're hustling right, and I swear to fucking God, watch a no-clip documentary on a smaller studio that isn't Bethesda, and, you know, fucking wait, because they will say, and then we had to do some contract work to get us through this stage of art, but now we have fucking Warframe and we're kicking ass.
But the thing
happens. You just got to do it.
A studio like Obsidian's never had a game that sold extremely well that was their independent IP. We talked about their best games.
You best be on some hustle, boy. If you can't get out here and, you know, get your hooks into people with a Warframe, get lucky because Total Biscuit talks about it or whatever, you best be hustling.
Well, and the thing is like, Red Dead blew up. Sorry, not Red Dead. Rockstar blew up with its own IP. CD Projekt Red, though it's not technically its own IP, that's its own situation because like they purchased the rights to use it or whatever, right? And then when you look at Obsidian, KOTOR 2, not theirs. Fallout New Vegas, not theirs. South Park Stick of Truth, not theirs. So it's like these studios, these mid-tier studios that are bigger than you'd like. Honestly, we could possibly see like WB Montreal, who has 500 employees for some reason. They haven't made a game except for Batman Origins, Arkham Origins. If that studio wasn't owned by WB and they were just called like Game Developer Montreal, we could easily hear about them closing. You have 500 employees and you made one game?
What's paying the bills?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
and a lot of this, you know, we haven't mentioned there's luck. Sometimes you get fucking lucky.
Yep.
Like there's games that are popular that have no business being popular. There's games that are considered critically amazing that have no business. You know, and that's what I'm saying. It's like there's games out there. It's like, and yeah, Epic Games was obviously not hurting before fucking Fortnite came out, since they're the licensor of the largest video game development engine in the world. But I would say some of it's luck, some of it's, you know, this guy's better business manager than head of Studio B, which is more of a creative, artsy type guy. He's not as good as that at that stuff. Some of it's the right hustle at the right time. Some of it's you got Polish government throwing you money. I'm just saying there are situations out there. There are tons of studios that are figuring it out, and I think I'm not saying like, oh, you guys are just shitty managers. I just think there might be some ignorance because we are in a whole new world, and the way to run a studio may not have been found yet, as far as the
current climate,
tiered,
the
current climate and the tier of studio that we're talking about. Because obviously you can run an indie, obviously you can run a AAA, but this is the gray area.
Yeah, and I think that also there's the whole discussion of like there's not really licensed games anymore either, which kind of lost work for those people too. You know what I mean? The guaranteed
that
paycheck.
was the mid tier. Yeah. If you were a AA studio, you were making Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 2 or whatever.
And the crazy thing is, like, I'd rather have Obsidian and Ninja Theory owned by Microsoft with the possibility of more games than them not to be owned and we hear about them closing in 6 months. And you'll be like, what Ninja Theory closed? They just had Hellblade come out. It's like, well, man, we just couldn't survive. Like, think about this.
It sucks when we're looking at a situation of like, oh, good studios with good games are closing. That sucks.
Imagine
but I do think we're hopefully getting towards a future of like, some people just need to fucking fall off. As terrible as that sounds, but that's like the way capitalism works, and that's the way our
it's not sustainable
world. And like some people are just gonna unfortunately have to fall off, and some of those people are gonna have made games that you or I like or that are critically acclaimed.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. Like, I'd rather have them not fall off and get acquired by Microsoft. You know what I mean? So there's a little bit more backing there. The crazy thing is, like, what if Microsoft announced at E3 last year, or this year, you know what I mean, earlier this year, that they bought Telltale? Imagine the different situation we'd be in where, like, oh, wow, all the new Telltale games are coming out on Game Pass, and that's like a perfect model for them. Their games weren't selling very well.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like a perfect model for them to have that income and then have the games still come out. Now we're talking about Telltale closing, us possibly not even getting the final season. It's like, this stuff can happen in a blink of an eye.
I think that is the key word here. Like, there needs to be a better model. There needs to be a better model for, like, if you're a studio of this size without a license, and you have this much money, you know, till you're broke, you need to get a game out in this amount of time that is this popular. If not, like, you are going to have issues.
Yeah.
You know?
If
I feel like we just need to get better about that. We're not developers, but this industry.
I think that AA also has a pride thing of trying to create AAA looking games at their tier. And for me, I mean, this is easy to say on outside looking.
Pride thing of we're not going to do contract work.
Well, not only that, like, if you had, I know this is easy coming from the outside perspective, but like this is also a golden situation. But like, imagine if you were a mid-sized developer who had 80 people, right? Instead of having those 80 people focused on one big game, I would much rather have 4 teams of 20 working on like Limbo-sized games, because
dude, I don't want to like give out my ideas, but I have had the same idea. It's like, if you're a AA studio, work on a AA game and then work on a super cheap indie game that can get you some fucking cash, man, that like 5 dudes in the corner are working on. It's not affecting your studio, but it's making you money.
Yeah. I just think that it is them figuring out how they can get things to run a little bit better. It's an interesting question. We'll talk about it in the future when another studio unfortunately closes, or when we hear about Microsoft buying another studio. We'll see. And it's funny because like PlayStation stable is kind of already full, so like these studios that are in trouble, it more than likely, if they don't close, they're going to be acquired by Microsoft. Like I don't imagine us seeing PlayStation have a major acquisition of a studio we know for a while. You know what I mean? Just because like
they've been shutting shit down more than anything. I think they're real comfortable with the amount of studios and the types of studios that they have right now. But I will say, connecting to what we were earlier talking about when I was saying that Microsoft is essentially embarrassing Sony as far as, you know, consumer rapport at this point. It just kind of sucks for Sony that they can't have a moment where they're like, look, we just acquired 5 studios, because they've already had those studios. So there was no moment in time for everybody to get hyped off of that, because they were just building it slowly over time. It kind of sucks for them.
Yeah. I mean, but they still release great exclusives. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's not terrible.
That's what they get.
I'm just saying they're missing out on this possibility
This
of
buzz.
a hype pro-consumer moment that would be an easy pro-consumer moment.
Yeah.
But it's like they're you know, disqualified from that because of the situation.
Let's close out the
They'd
show.
rather just have God of War. Just put that out there.
Sure. Let's close out the show. What we're going to be playing. For me, more Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Forza Horizon 4, Magic the Gathering Arena. Nothing new, really, on the horizon yet. Just Forza Horizon. What about you guys?
Nice.
God of War.
JoyCon party? You going?
God of War 3.
You going to the JoyCon convention?
Yeah. Do some more
Who's your and
JoyCon
Emily's
party.
main, real quick, when you guys play Mario Party?
We don't have one yet. I've played Mario. I played Yoshi. Actually, she's gone with Peach mostly.
Nice.
It's my boy Koopa Troopa in the game.
Koopa.
As a playable character.
Yeah.
Dry Bones is too, isn't he?
Yeah, but I haven't unlocked Dry Bones yet. It's kind of
Nice.
Have you played it solo at all? Tried?
no, that would be really dumb.
There's a solo
Okay,
mode,
I
though,
was
isn't there?
gonna say-
There's a solo game mode.
Oh yeah.
I was actually gonna, right before you said that would be dumb, I was gonna be like, would you mind hopping in for 10 minutes and just let me know how it is, Dom? You're like, fuck that.
I don't even have to try it. It would just be dumb.
But okay, I don't want to get into this, Dom. Don't prejudge stuff.
Okay, we're running long, guys. Let's get to what we're going to be playing.
That's it. I'm good. Mario Party, God of War 3.
Hell yeah. Jordan?
So, two things right quick I wanted to say. Star Wars Resistance is a show that I meant to mention at the beginning of the show. This is the third Star Wars 3D animated series, and it is made by the same core group as the previous two. It is perplexing to me how Star Wars 3D animation can be essentially at the top of the line when it comes to when Clone Wars was coming out, especially when it was first coming out. And then when Rebels came out, they started doing, and I was telling Dom, you know, Rebels started off as a decent show and became a great show, so I would stick with it. And the animation got better. They started playing less to their weaknesses, which was the awful hair on those characters. They shaved Ezra's head so they didn't have to animate his awful hair. Disney, when they acquired the whole Star Wars thing, and Lucasfilm decided to spend less money on the animation, so Rebels was cheaper to make, and they were doing a smaller team and making it faster. And now with Resistance, the 3D animation that they've decided to go with is so budget, it's ridiculous. And it is something that you would see on one of these dinky Netflix kids series that's like a license for How to Train Your Fucking Dragon or whatever. Some dumb bullshit like that. It's like Star Wars is on a different fucking level, and Disney, you need to put some fucking money in. I know it's animated, it's not, you know, the kids are going to like it either way, but like you have a lot of adults that are still watching this stuff, and I think that you're really hurting your brand by putting something out that's like this lackluster in design and just the visual aesthetic of it. And it's really not a very good show from the first 2 episodes as far as I can tell. Not even like, oh, Star Wars Rebels first couple episodes not nearly as good as Clone Wars, but there's still potential. It's like I'm worried I don't even see much potential in Resistance. So I know that's a little diatribe, but it's very important to me. Obviously Star Wars is a big thing, and I just don't understand why they keep putting less and less money into these shows. Obviously the Jon Favreau live action show is going to be fucking cool, but it's weird that the animation is starting to fall to the wayside, and it's like they're fucking it up in the same way I feel that they fucked up the games in this last several years with the way EA's handled things.
Yeah.
So Star Wars Resistance is so far a disappointment. 2 episodes in, does not look good. And then I also just wanted to clarify, I'm not trying to like prove my point any further or like reopen this discussion. What I was trying to differentiate with the cloud stuff earlier, I was saying it seems to me like the list that you were providing, Jerrad, or looking at, those were cloud computing services. And to me, in my opinion, Gaikai and Wikipedia lists it as a cloud gaming service. So it's like a modicum of the size of a cloud computing service, which is broader.
It was just
basket.
cloud services. Specific. It was just cloud services in general. I get what you're coming from.
Gotcha.
It's like obviously
That
cloud
was my perspective.
Yeah, obviously cloud computing services are going to be higher on a lot of lists than something that's specifically gaming. I understand.
Right, like the cloud computing service is Azure. The cloud gaming service within that is the Microsoft xCloud or whatever they called it. So it's like a molecule inside of an atom. Is the way I'm looking at it, not the way that it's correct necessarily.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you guys for listening to episode 115. We'll be back next week. If you can, please follow us on YouTube, subscribe, like the videos. On iTunes, if you're listening there, leave us a review. It definitely helps. 5 stars. Anything less than 4, just, don't. You can follow us on Twitter at CTRLINT. It's controlled interest abbreviated. You can follow Dom at Dom's Oreos. Jordan is at Mellow Modus. And I am at Jerrad_. We'll catch you guys next time.